Welcome to our first Zoom field trip. Thank you for joining in. Hopefully, if everything goes like it's supposed to, you'll be able to go back through and watch the video from this and answer a couple questions. And we'll just try it. We're doing the best we can to make it work. I miss you guys. I miss being in class. I would much rather be in class teaching and have Mr. Collins come to our school and do this for your classes, but we can't, so this is the best way to do that. So I want to introduce you to Sean Collins. He's the owner and operator of Star Fire Extinguisher here in Marianna. And all those fire extinguishers that you see hanging around school, his job is to make sure that those things are operational and functional. And today he's going to actually tell us a little bit more about them. And he's also going to teach you how to operate them so that if you ever are in a fire situation, you'll know how to use the extinguishers and you'll be able to be safe. So this is part of our safety series that we do every once in a while. We do safety lessons. So I'm going to let Mr. Collins take over. And if you would, keep your microphone muted until we ask questions in just a little bit. All right, Mr. Collins, it's all yours.
Well, welcome to Star Fire Extinguisher. I know this is a virtual field trip for you guys, so just hang on. We're going to have some fun. Going to learn a few things, and it's not only things you can use at school. Pretty much any public place you go to, you're going to come across fire extinguishers. They're always there. They're always at the ready for you to use as the layperson just walking around the building. They're not just for the building owners or the building workers. They're for anybody in case of a fire. So if you know how to use them, you go into action and you put the fire out. So give you a little background on myself. I am a 25-year firefighter. I retired. I actually used to run into burning buildings, which was a lot of fun, but those days are over, and now I sell and service fire extinguishers. So I'm still in the safety business, just not working from a fire truck. So as we get into the different types of fire extinguishers, we're going to go over some of those details, and I'm sure that you're probably going to have a few questions to answer at the end of this. After I finish my speech here, we're going to open up for a question and answer session before we transition outside and do a live burn. I'm just going to show you how to use a fire extinguisher on a real live fire. So that's going to be pretty cool. We do that a lot. We go out to a lot of locations, whether it's schools or hospitals. Everybody needs to know how to use a fire extinguisher. Because at some point in time in your life, it's likely that you're going to come across a fire. And you're going to need to know how to put that fire out. So if you have those skills, just like CPR, just like first aid, if you have those skills, you can jump in and you can assist somebody and possibly save somebody's life with these skills. Even though they're very simple, they're very important in an emergency. So let's talk about some fire extinguishers. So you see a lot of fire extinguishers I have sitting here, they're red. One reason they're red is just because you can see them. They're a little different color than maybe the background on the wall. Typically you'll see fire extinguishers hanging close to most of your exits. That's done on for a purpose. So if you have a fire and you're exiting the building, typically if you know how to use a fire extinguisher, you're going to exit the building by a fire extinguisher. So if you're an experienced person, you can grab that fire extinguisher and go assist in putting out a fire. So different types of fire extinguishers. You're going to have a fire extinguisher like this silver one that has water in it. Okay, and that's going to be designed to put out a certain type of fire, which would be a paper fire, a grass fire, some type of fire that water can put out, not an electrical fire. That would be very dangerous. We know we don't put water on electrical fires or electricity. You can definitely get shocked that way. So it has information on each of the fire extinguishers that tells you what that fire extinguisher will extinguish safely. So these I have here, these are the most common fire extinguishers. These have dry chemical powder in them, and they're good for all types of fires, which would be your A, B, C, and D type fires. Your A being your papers, your plastic, and that's what this fire extinguisher is very effective in putting out. Your papers, your plastic, your grass fires, those kind of things. So then your B fire extinguishers are going to be your liquids, your gas fires, anything from gasoline to diesel fuel, those kind of things, is going to be your Class B. And these are all effective in putting those out, not the water. The water's going to react with that. It's not going to be good. So your A, B, and C, and your C being your electrical. So there's a myth out there that you can't spray an ABC fire extinguisher on an energized electrical piece of equipment, say a computer or an electrical transfer box or something like that. But you can spray this on there, directly on there, and feel safe doing it because it's designed to do that. They've tested them over and over again, and they are very effective on those types of equipment. So to use a fire extinguisher, you may have heard this before, but there's an acronym called PASS. So the good thing about fire extinguishers is they all operate the same way. So here's a fire extinguisher. This is the smallest of fire extinguishers that you'll see out there. This is a 2.5 pound ABC fire extinguisher. This will put out your papers, your grease, your electrical, all that type of equipment. It just holds 2.5 pounds of powder. Moving up, this one has 5 pounds of powder, this one has 10 pounds of powder, and this one has 20 pounds of powder. So depending on the amount of fire that you may have so if you had an automotive shop, you would really want to have a big fire extinguisher because you're most likely to have a big fire if you have a fire. Now, for your home, this 2.5 pound fire extinguisher is the perfect size fire extinguisher for your residence, for your garage, those kind of things. But when you're working around something that's potentially have a bigger fire hazard, you want to get a bigger fire extinguisher. So to use them, we're going to use the PASS acronym. So we want to pull the pin, okay? So that just gets the fire extinguisher ready to be used, okay? Now, you want to aim it at what you want to put it out. You'll see some of these have hoses, and we're going to demonstrate the ones with the hoses outside. The hose actually points the powder away from you and towards the fire. So this one has a little nozzle you'll see here. So when we point it, we pull the pin, we aim it, and then we squeeze the handle just like your water hose handle at home on your water hose. You squeeze it together and the powder will start expelling out of the fire extinguisher. And then you just want to sweep it back and forth. Whether it's the hose you have in your hand that you're sweeping back and forth, or this little fire extinguisher you're going to sweep back and forth to just expel the powder and put the powder on what is on fire. So that's how you do it. It's called PASS. Pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. So remember that. Maybe one of your questions. But that's the good thing about fire extinguishers. They all operate the same way. Now their contents and what they can put out is going to be different. So you want to kind of pay attention to the labels. So the good thing about the contents of a fire extinguisher is that companies like mine, we go out and we put the proper fire extinguishers in place so you don't really have to worry about that. The proper fire extinguisher has already been placed so that when it's time to use it, whatever area you're in, you're going to have the proper extinguisher, and it's going to be spaced out properly so you don't have to run too far to get it. So as the next time you guys get on campus, or if we ever get to go shopping again, just keep your eyes peeled for the fire extinguisher cabinets. In most of your shopping centers, they're going to be on some of the poles as you're walking through shopping. They're going to be there, but a lot of people don't pay attention to them. So, but typically a fire extinguisher is going to be 75 feet in any direction from where you're at. That is one of the fire codes that we have to go by when we establish the layout of a building and how many fire extinguishers we put in a building. Is distancing. We just don't put one for one big Walmart. We have them every 75 feet so that if there is a fire, you don't have to go very far to find the proper fire extinguisher. So now, as far as fire extinguishers go, we sell them to anything from a restaurant to schools to a convenience store. Some people call and say, hey, can we buy a fire extinguisher from you for our home? Absolutely. We sell them to people to put in their RVs, their boats. You need a fire extinguisher pretty much everywhere. So if you do a lot of fishing, or your parents do a lot of fishing, They typically have a fire extinguisher on the boat. It's required by the game warden. If you get pulled over, that's one of the things they're going to check. Do you have a fire extinguisher? Why do you need a fire extinguisher? Well, you've got fuel on the boat. The motor could catch fire if it has a problem, and it would be easier to put that out than swim to shore. So they want to make sure that you have all the safety equipment there. But as far as fire extinguishers go, these are all commercial extinguishers. If you use them, they can be recharged, and we do a lot of that here in our shop in Marianna. A lot of people bring their fire extinguishers here to be recharged, and we actually go out to their homes, to the job sites, and we recharge the fire extinguishers at the job site. A lot of your wood mills, the prisons, those kind of things, we go there and actually do the service there at the facilities. So we can probably go ahead and open it up for questions if you want to. And I know some of you may have a few questions. Don't be afraid to ask. We teach this class a lot, and we definitely want to hear some questions. So pop in and ask some.
Okay, so give me just a minute to make sure that I have my sound turned up. Okay, so if you have a question, unmute your microphone and then ask your question. We'll go one at a time. I see Alexia, so go ahead. You have a question?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay, all right, mute your microphone. If you do not have a question, keep your microphone muted. If you do have a question, go ahead and unmute your microphone and ask away.
How do you use it?
How do you use it? So that would be the pass method. You want to pull that pin. You want to pull the pin, point it, and squeeze the handle and sweep it. These fire extinguishers will be hanging on the walls as you grab it. It's got a gauge on it. It's going to show you how much pressure is in it. It's just like a fuel gauge in your car. It's going to be in the green if it's good to go. It's going to be red. You need to get it fixed. So that's as simple as it gets. It will not shock you. It will not kick back. When we go outside, I'll go over all that stuff with you and show you, actually demonstrate these fire extinguisher spray and powder. Now, there's one thing I didn't add, is that you don't want to play around with these things. You don't want to spray a fire extinguisher on a person. The powder that comes out, it doesn't take the oxygen out of the air, but if you sprayed it right in somebody's face, playing around, it could hinder their ability to breathe. So do not play with these things. There has been a lot of vandalism with fire extinguishers, people breaking into schools and spraying fire extinguishers. Let me tell you now, there's a lot of trouble that comes with that. So don't play with fire extinguishers. They need to be only used during emergency times, emergency purposes. So, but the simple use, just remember pass.
Okay, anybody else have any questions about the types of fire extinguishers or what they can be sprayed on? If you do, go ahead and unmute, ask your question, and then mute again. Okay?
What's in?
Sam, you're killing me. All right.
So what's inside of it? So remember I talked about we have different types of extinguishers. This one has strictly just water in it. And it's a water type fire extinguisher, good for your papers, your plastics, and your grass fires. Water works very effective on your Class A fires, but these have a powder in it. It's called monoammonium phosphate. It's a chemical that's made up that really likes to put out fire. It actually, you have a triangle, they call it a fire triangle, where you have fuel, you have heat, and you have a source to light it off. So it breaks that chemical chain reaction to stop that fire triangle from working. So, but most of this is powder, and that's what I was saying. You don't want to spray that in somebody's face, and you want it, when you're spraying it, it's going to go away from you, and that's where you want it. You want it going towards the fire and not back on you. So the majority of fire extinguishers you're going to come across will have a powder in it that's going to extinguish the fire. It's going to break up that triangle and extinguish it.
Okay, anybody else have questions? All right, very good. Well, we're going to transition outside.
Okay.
All right, take us just
So
a
here
second.
we go.
I have to grab all of my technology. Miss BB's truck.
Okay. So we'll get it lit and then we'll see which way this wind is blowing.
Okay, so what's happening here? Mr. Collins is going to light our burn container. Okay, he has a burn pan that he uses for this. And he just added some fuel to it. Because for those of you that don't remember, for fuel we have to have, for something to burn, for fire, we got to have fuel, we got to have heat, and we have to have oxygen. Alright, so we've got our burn pan. Now that we've seen we can tell which way the wind's blowing.
Okay guys, so we got the smoke going away from us. We always want to stay upwind. So remember how I said we got to pull the pin, okay? That makes it active. Now we can get ready to spray it. We're going to put this fire out. So what we have to do is test fire it before we get into the danger zone. Okay, so now we have powder. Okay, so now I'm going to approach it from the upwind side, and we're going to take it and we're going to squeeze it and we're going to sweep it all at the same time. Okay, here we go. And I'm going to back away from it. Okay, so there we go. That's how you put out a fire. You pull the pin, you point it at what's on fire, and squeeze it and sweep the handle, just like that. That's how they work. So this was your ABC fire extinguisher, and we had a gas fire, so a Class B fire we had going. This fire extinguisher meets that description, so we were able to put out that fire with our Class ABC fire extinguisher. Very easy, very effective. I still have plenty of powder left in the fire extinguisher if it was to flare back up or we had more fire to put out. Again, fire extinguishers are for what they call the incipient phase fires, which is going to be your smaller fires. Now, I would not be able to put out a roaring house fire with a fire extinguisher. It's appropriate size of fire that we can put out with this, which is going to be your smaller fires. This is a pretty big fire for a fire extinguisher, but it puts it out very effectively. So that way we had the powder going away from us. We had the fire away from us. These fire extinguishers will spray this powder about 10 feet away from us. So even in your home, if somebody is frying on the stove, say frying pork chops or chicken, and the grease catches fire, you can effectively stand on the other side of your kitchen 5-10 foot away and spray this powder and just let it loft over on top of the stove, and it'll put the grease out. Just that effective. I don't think anybody's frying in a pan this big inside their house, but you can see how effective these fire extinguishers are. And I probably used less than a pound of powder, so that little bitty fire extinguisher that I said was very effective for your home would have easily put this fire out. So you can think of a 8 or 10 inch frying pan in the kitchen. That little fire extinguisher is perfect for that. So if you don't have a fire extinguisher in your home, you can contact your local fire extinguisher company, Star Fire Extinguisher, or you can go to Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, and pick up a fire extinguisher. But the problem is, if you don't have one, the fire's going to get out of control and possibly lose your home or lose your parents' home. So it's very important to have a fire extinguisher and working smoke detectors in your home if you're going to survive a fire. So that's very important.
All right, so if anybody has any questions about the actual burn and what we just saw there, you can unmute and ask. Mr. Collins will be able to hear you. Obviously, I know you can hear the cars in the background. We're outside of his office. So anybody else have any questions? You guys probably would just like to see more fire, would be my guess.
We can do it. We can light it one more time and burn it if you want to.
All right, we'll go one more time with the fire. I know that's the fun part. That's what everybody likes to see. Bunch of ag kids that are pyromaniacs.
Yes.
All right, so this is diesel. Notice the diesel fuel is in a yellow can. All right, and diesel fuel does not ignite the same way that gasoline does. So you'll notice Mr. Collins put just a little tiny bit of gas on top of the diesel. The gas provides the accelerant so that the diesel will actually burn. And for safety's sake, he's using a flare. Okay.
Okay, so we'll let it get nice and big, and we're going to use the same fire extinguisher that we had to go ahead and finish putting it out. So, this is a perfect example of a fire out of control, and we have the proper extinguisher to extinguish it. We got the smoke kind of going straight up, so we don't really need to be upwind. We don't have any wind right this second.
Guys, I'm standing at least 15 feet away from this fire, and the temperature where I'm standing is already probably 15 to 20 degrees warmer than before the fire was lit. Okay, you don't realize how powerful fire can be until you get near it.
Yeah. All right, so here we go. I got the pin out, okay? I still got powder. I'm going to point the nozzle at the fire. We're going to ease in, pull it out. See me sweeping the nozzle, just like that. And there we go. Puts it out. So you can see how effective the powder is, and we got some of it lofting back on us now. But you can see how effective the powder is at breaking up that chemical chain reaction. Does it very fast. It puts a layer of that powder on top of that fuel and breaks that fuel and heat and oxygen away from it. Doesn't let it burn anymore. So when you can break those things down, fire extinguishers do that very effectively. We have no more fire.
All right, so if you have a question, this is your opportunity. If you don't, thank you for joining in. Anybody have questions? All right, thank you for joining in to our first Zoom online field trip for ag class. Hopefully, I'll be able to post the recording of this field trip and you'll be able to go back and watch again. Tomorrow, I will post questions that relate to this field trip, and that will be your assignment that is due next week. So if you have any questions, be sure to send me your questions via Remind or email. The best way to post your answers to your questions is on Focus. If you know how to upload on Focus, please do that. So other than that, say thanks to Mr. Collins.
Thanks, guys, for coming.
You guys can start logging out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.